Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Women's Major Group and Collaborators Side Event. We have Gender-Central Moldova, La Asociație de Sexuale y Reproductivos, Women's Major Group, International Center for Research on Women, and Soar Optimist International are co-organizing this side event. We're so happy that you could join us this early morning. I am Shehnaz Kıymas. I'm the coordinator for the Women's Major Group, and it's my honor to open the meeting now with all of you. So today we will be talking about utilizing VNRs for gender-transformative sustainable development in times of multiple crises that we find ourselves in now. Before we begin, I would like to remind some house rules to all of you. Please keep your microphone at mute whenever you're not speaking. We will have a chance for question and answer at the end of the event, so you can get to unmute yourself if you want to ask questions or comment there. Please turn off your videos if your internet connectivity is not good. That helps. You're welcome to add comments to the chat box. It will be open for your comments, and we'll be following the chat box too. And please remember, finally, that this is a safe space. We will not let any discriminatory remarks. We will give one warning to any discriminatory remarks, and then participants will be removed from the Zoom after that warning. And without further ado, it's my great honor to present the Women's Major Group Europe and Central Asia organizing partner, the president of Gender-Central Moldova and professor at Moldova State University, Valentina Bodrug-Lungu. Valentina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Shehnaz. Good morning, good afternoon, good night for many people who are connected with us. I'm so glad to have this opportunity to moderate this side event. I know many people started to connect to our side event, and thanks, Shehnaz, together we will moderate our session today. If it's possible, next slide. At the beginning, I would like to very shortly introduce our wonderful organization. Women's Major Group is a global intersectional feminist collective and official participant in United Nations process in sustainable development. And the Women's Major Group has huge responsibility to facilitate women's and feminist civil society participation, info sharing, input, UN spaces, and realize a hard work at the regional and global level. Today we have a very nice and interesting side event. And specifically, I would like to mention that in the context of sustainable development, gender equality stands as a fundamental pillar. And our event are organized in the frame of voluntary national review. Our side event is focused on gender as a cross-cutting element of the many SDG. But in the current year, specifically dedicated to high-level political forum 2024, we'll discuss 5 SDG. SDG number 1, no poverty. SDG number 2, zero hunger. SDG 13, climate action. SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. SDG 17, partnership for the goals. In this context, I would like to mention that voluntary national review process is a primary channel for reporting on the country-level progress of SDG implementation and implementation holistically Agenda 2030. VNRs are reports produced by member states on the status of implementation of SDGs in their country. But it's very important to mention that civil society plays an important role in international monitoring process, not only at international level, but also at local and national and regional level. Next, please. And our side event aims to, firstly, assess progress towards selected SDG and the High-Level Political Forum 2024 through a gender lens. Secondly, showcase gender-transformative best practices in achieving sustainable development. Also, identify opportunity and challenges in mainstreaming gender equality and SDGs implementation, and highlight the role of voluntary national reviews in advancing gender-transformative development. Next, please. And today we have a very nice team. We would like to manage our side event in 2 rounds. The first will offer the floor to our distinguished speakers. And second part will be, of course, open space to address the question, reflections to our speakers and in general. And today we have Marianne Majidova, who is co-founder, Gender Hub Azerbaijan, member of Advisory Council of Youth, Council of Europe, Gender Rapporteur, Joint Council of Youth and Council of Europe. Also, Nana Pirmashvili, Executive Director, Association for Farmers' Rights Defense. Dar Pilepsan is a lawyer from Armenia. She's working at the advocacy team of Women's Resource Center, feministic organization, standing in the forefront of advocacy of the rights of and empowerment of women across Armenia. And it's very important that this organization providing safe space for women and doing advocacy for improved regulation on gender equality. But also we have Almudena Rodriguez Garcia, l'associate drept sexuale et reproductive SPEN, dedicated feminist activist and co-organizing partner of Women's Measure Group for Europe and Central Asia. And Firle Pegan, Executive Director of Women's Support Services Estonia, working on protection of women GBV survivors. And at the beginning, I would like to offer the floor to Mariam. Mariam, we would like to address you the questions you see. And our first questions, what are the intersection of SDGs within the work you do? And what are your experience on this? Thank you.
Thank you, Valentina, and nice to meet you all. Thank you once again for having us on very symbolic Women's History Month in March, and also it's coinciding with CSW. So it's a special honor to talk about these issues and talk about certain solutions, especially now. So our organization, Gender Hub Azerbaijan, is a relatively young organization, and our main focus are young women and young girls who are representing vulnerable groups and disadvantaged groups in different parts of Azerbaijan. Our mission as an organization is to prevent and to eliminate any form of gender-based violence towards women and youth. And talking about SDGs, first of all, we believe that all thematic priorities which are reflected in SDGs and all the targets certainly have gender component, and without gender equality, it's hard to achieve any of those SDGs. This year's focus, as we mentioned earlier, is SDG 1 and 16 and SDG 13, and this is especially important for our organization, and we work on 3-4 different strategic priorities which intersect directly with these SDGs that I mentioned earlier. So we work a lot on women economic empowerment, especially women representing vulnerable groups such as single mothers, women from rural area, women who are survivors of violence, or women who are IDPs. And what we try to do is to have an incubation program for them so that they can learn basic skills of an entrepreneur and then start or develop their businesses. And later on, we create a networking space for them, which is called the Women Bazaar Festival. So they can come together with other women, their peers, or women who already have a successful business, who can inspire them, who can network with them, and who can further input to the development of their startups, of their small or medium businesses. And this way we try to commit ourselves to SDG number 1, and also make sure that we reduce a certain poverty in the regions of Azerbaijan and within socially disadvantaged groups. Currently, we are also, the second priority that we are working at the moment is men engagement in gender equality and partnership for the goals, which is 17 and also 16 SDGs about women, peace and security, because we believe that having multi-stakeholder approach as an organization is crucial, and we cannot achieve SDGs or gender equality without having someone left behind. So we try to work with government, we try to work with private sector, with UN and other international organizations, but also with men, because we believe that without men, it's almost meaningless to talk about gender equality, because mainly the major perpetrators among perpetrators are men, but also they are the major supporters and the champions who can be ambassadors for gender equality, and who can support their partners, their mothers, their sisters, and in general women who are unfortunately impacted by GBV and domestic violence in Azerbaijan, but also beyond. We started to work recently on youth peace and security and women peace and security agenda. Azerbaijan is the only country in the region doesn't have a national action plan on women peace and security. Therefore, we believe that intersecting our goals to SDG 16 is very, very important, so that we can also promote this agenda and talk about meaningful participation of women, not just their symbolic representation or symbolic positioning, but rather spaces, safe spaces where their voices are heard. And the third SDG that we will specifically focus as an organization this year is SDG 13 on climate action, where we strongly believe that creating gender-responsive actions and gender-sensitive actions to climate change, especially on the adaptation and mitigation strategies, are very, very important. In our reality, there are still a lot of segments of population, especially vulnerable population, who are not aware about impact of climate change. So what we try to do is to customize some of the problems according to the realities of certain regions in Azerbaijan, and develop green skills, which is sustainability management, recycle reuse management, access to water, access to energy, and other resource management components, where we try to ensure that young people and also women are aware about the impact of this on themselves, but also on their households, and how they can further manage their resources. So this is in a nutshell. And of course, to achieve all of that, we believe that having SDG 17 on board and having it as a priority is very important, so that we can create the link between SDGs and talk about gender equality from intersectionality perspective. So thank you for giving me the floor, and I'm ready to pass the honor to the next speaker.
Thank you, Mariam, for valuable points and your very interesting experience. It's very important, our platform, to sharing best practices and our experience to understand more what strategy can be used for more effective intervention. And now I would like to offer the floor to Edward from Armenia. Our colleague from Georgia will connect later. Nvar, you have the floor. And what is your experience in the field? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this significant side event. As already you mentioned, Valentina, I represent Women's Resource Center Armenia, and our organization is working in the field for 20 years, and we are doing advocacy, providing safe space for women, and raising awareness in different issues, including gender equality, non-discrimination, labor rights, sexual and reproductive rights, and also women, peace and security agenda. As we all know, Sustainable Development Goals serve as a blueprint for a better and a more sustainable future for all. And it has the goal and principle of leaving no one behind. And within the mission of our organization, we have the same values. And in our work, we address multiple issues that intersect with various SDGs, from promoting gender equality and women's rights, which is SDG 5, to advocating for quality education and access to healthcare, SDGs 3 and 4, eradicating poverty, SDG 1, peace, justice, and strong institutions, SDG 16, and partnership for the goals, SDG 17. As already have been mentioned by the previous speakers, this year we have specific SDGs on which we concentrate more. So I would make my speech based on these SDGs. Specifically, I would like firstly to refer to SDG 1 on eradicating poverty. In this aspect, I would like to mention that our work is based on, we are trying to eradicate poverty through empowering women and especially providing, advocating for better regulations in labor code. Armenia till last year didn't have any regulations on workplace sexual harassment, and we did a significant effort for adopting these regulations in Armenian labor code. So we did research with focus groups and legal research to show the evidences to the government that this problem really exists in Armenia, because at first they were kind of defensive that we don't have sexual harassment in the workplace, so this doesn't have to be addressed in the legislation. But last year we had significant changes in Armenian labor code, and we could reach our goal. And sexual harassment at workplace, its definition and ban of it were mentioned also in the labor code. They were adopted within this package of amendments. So we think this is one of the good development for the last year, but there are still a lot of issues connected with right to non-discrimination of women, and on our route to get to gender equality and eradicating of poverty in Armenia, especially in labor rights issues. Also, SDG 1 on eradicating poverty, unfortunately, we had also to work on humanitarian issues a lot this year because we have a lot of forcibly displaced people in Armenia, and we are working also to empower them and to help them to get a job, or to help them to overcome poverty in which they can find themselves because of the marginalized situation they are now. I would like also mention our work on SDG 16, just for peace, justice, and strong institutions. We are working on women, peace, and security agenda, and we are trying to empower women to participate in negotiations and for their voice to be really heard. And in this aspect, we are doing consultations with women who live on like border areas to help them, to empower them to participate also in the discussions and to make their voice hearable. And we also think that partnership and the goals, SDG 17, is quite important in reaching our goals and doing our advocacy. And in this aspect, we are part of different networks and coalitions. We are part of the coalition Stop Violence Against Women, within which we are doing advocacy for better regulations on gender-based violence, for the adoption of new regulations. Recently, we had significant changes to the law on domestic violence, and which is giving better regulations and procedures for women. Specifically, previously we didn't cover partners as subjects of domestic violence, but now not only in the family, or like not only spouses, but also partners are considered as subjects of this law. And we are also part of anti-discrimination coalition, which is within which we are advocating for the adoption of comprehensive anti-discrimination legislation in Armenia. And we think that this is really important for reaching our goals, and it can help with different SDGs, because non-discrimination, as we know, is intersecting topic in different areas. And we are also part of Human Rights House Yerevan, within which we are cooperating with other human rights organizations to provide support to human rights defenders, to journalists, to activists, and we think that this forum is also very important. So mostly this I can mention, and I think that cooperation and a strong civil society and our connected and work together can bring to the situation where we can reach the sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. You have a valuable experience in the field. And during our regional forum on sustainable development, many people mentioned these issues regarding the security of our women, and specific issues on prevention on gender-based violence, cyberbullying, and other types of violence. These issues is exactly relating to our security in general, human security, and our human rights on security. Thank you very much. And I would like to ask my colleague Shehnaz to include video remarks of from our colleague from Estonia. She's in New York now, but she was so open to participate. And please, Shehnaz, open and provide the address. Thank you.
Hello from New York, where the UN Commission on the Status of Women is taking place during these 2 weeks. Estonia is preparing its voluntary national review this year and will present it during HLPF in July. Instruments like agreed SDGs, CEDAW, and the Istanbul Conventions are essential for getting the state on the right path towards ensuring women's human rights. The state signed these as a commitment to make changes, and for CSOs, they give arguments for pushing legislation and implementing agreed practices. Although we are proud of Estonia's development during the past 33 years after regaining independence, there are still many shortcomings. And as it happens, shortcomings hurt the weakest the most. Despite the fact that the state is trying to improve in these areas, funding often falls through the gaps during political negotiations. Politicians often do not care about human rights, they care about voters. Still, SDGs are essential key performance indexes for Estonia, as our government officials are competitive. SDGs and VNR reports are tools we use while advocating for legislation change or implementing practices that are not fully there yet. And sure, since the last VNR, there have been developments. Still, these are way too slow for underserved ones, and for us advocates as well. In Estonia, poverty has a face of single mothers and retired women. 2/3 of pension-aged in Estonia are women. The pay gap that women have during their lifetime, in 2023 it was 17.7%, translates into pension poverty. Therefore, there is no way out once you enter the vicious circle. Social benefits are available, but because of a lot of bureaucracy, people have to jump through many hoops to justify eligibility. So, unfortunately for us, it is accurate to state that Estonian women are not in a good position, and a lot of work still needs to be done. On the positive side, Estonia has the longest full-rate paid parent leave, 18 months. That gives mothers security when staying home with babies. Hunger is connected to poverty. There are many children whose only meal they get during the day is at school. Fortunately, these children get access to free meals relatively easily. Climate action is one of the pain spots for us. As a country is situated in the temporal zone, it is challenging to bring the message to citizens that there is an actual need to take steps toward reducing climate warming and focus on energy saving, green urban spaces, or better waste management. The Estonian energy industry's footprint is one of the worst in Europe. Fortunately, we have many young activists who are loud and active in their advocacy for a cleaner future. For the first time in Estonian history, they were able to go successfully to court against a state company that wanted to build an oil refinery factory. The Supreme Court decided to revoke the factory building permit due to the poor environmental impact assessment in the planning process. The Supreme Court noted in its decision that the Paris Climate Agreement was not followed. Estonian state has planned to address climate change by supporting clean energy transition, green industries and bioeconomy. The plan is supported by our goals to improve biodiversity and the conditions of the Baltic Sea and reduce emissions across all sectors. There is no good cooperation between institutions. Instead, there is competition rather than cooperation. And justifying their work, officials means piles and piles of documents that do not support development of cause at all. Civil society is heard but not always taken seriously. We have to go on and on with our talking points before it gets brought onto the table of discussions. For example, the question of cyber violence against women has been ignored since 2017, when we started suggesting that there is a need to take an action. Only at the end of 2023 were we invited to have an open discussion about the topic. I can confidently say that when more women are involved in decision-making and execution roles, more gets done. That was also described after parliamentary elections when coalition negotiations took place. Women who participated in these said that the most work got done when men weren't in the room. Unfortunately, society is very reluctant to give women a chance. When a woman is in leadership position, it usually means that her skill set equals 3 of men's. When we suggest temporary quotas, they usually usual ridiculing of the idea comes up. There are no barriers for women to get elected if she wanted. Really? SDGs must be followed for society to get a more equal and just future for all. VNRs are tools to show it and what the state can be done to ensure achieving these. So in conclusion, yes, there is discussion and support by several enlightened government officials about how to progress faster. But in general, the development of SDGs that support human rights is very slow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pili, and greetings from
New York.
Geneva to New York.
On the status of women.
Thank you. Thank you for your powerful message. It's very important to discuss all issues from different level and at different level, from different country, and the frame of different organization, and of course, on the level of different platform. And now I would like to ask my distinguished speakers how voluntary review processes, starting from the regional level, can support your work at local, national, and regional level too. And if you have some suggestions toward agenda review process, due to the fact that now many people ask how to improve civil society participation and how we ensure better implementation of Agenda 2030 at local, national, regional, and global level. Who'd like to start? Mariam, and then...
Yeah, I can go ahead. Thank you. So basically, from the reality that I'm coming from, and a lot of the realities in Eastern Partnership and in Southern Europe, we can feel that there are a lot of shrinking spaces going on for civil society. It's even though we are living in 21st century, but the ongoing wars, ongoing conflicts, they still don't let us to fully implement our potential as NGOs and civil society actors. It's not always safe to be an activist. It's not always safe to be a feminist, which is why it's really important to continue fighting to be included in certain decision-making processes. It's very rare that we can always receive different invitations unless we're not advocating to be there. So we still have to fight for our place in the processes, and the VNR process is no exception. And it's not always very meaningful participation. Sometimes we feel that our participation is more on a symbolic level, which is why we want to make sure that our voices are heard. That's why we also contribute to different international treaties and organizations through drafting shadow reports, through drafting certain statements in CEDAW and other spaces where we are given a floor. And during the VNR processes, actually, as a civil society, I was representing a youth perspective some years ago when I was chairing a National Youth Council. And even then, we also had to really ask the SDG state, national SDG body to include us in the VNR processes. And normally they would do it in the last moment, which is very hard to consistently bring an input. And we are planning also to have a meeting here in April and May. And since Azerbaijan is also in the volunteer national review process for HLPF until HLPF in July, I'll try to be part of the national consultations this year. But apart from that, on an organization level, what we try to do is to have focus group discussions within our own organization so that we can take these needs to a bigger decision-making body, take these needs to a bigger space. And we do have sometimes anonymous surveys, where certain vulnerable groups can, because sometimes people are not feeling comfortable to be part of the focus group discussion, so they prefer to fill in the anonymous forms on the targets of SDGs. Do they understand what they are? Do they know how certain target impacts them as a person? What is the literacy level about SDG implementation, specifically about gender equality implementation, where we are as a society, where we are as a community, and having a certain statement also during the VNR itself in HLPF for sure empowers a lot of civil society organizations to continue fighting for these rights on the local level. And we believe that having perspective of civil society reflected in the VNR is also very important, as governments not always see the bigger picture and they cannot always be part of the process where intersectionality is in the center of attention. So which is why we believe that having third sector, civil society on board is especially crucial, so that we leave no one behind during the VNR processes. Thank you, Valentina.
Thank you, Mariam, for provided inputs. It's very important that you mention intersectionality, also connection with other human rights instruments. But also, I would like to mention that the recent study of Women's Major Group on VNR process on SDG highlighted exactly the issues. What is impact of participation of Women's Major Group participants, members, and women's organization in VNR process? It's about our experience, yeah? It's about open space to sharing our experience. It is about new knowledge and how to connect our activity with SDG and VNR processes in our country. And Var, what is your experience and your point of view?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to mention that I agree with all the points that were raised by the previous speaker and were discussed with you. As we go through the sustainable development, it is becoming increasingly evident that collaboration and coordination are essential for success. VNR process starting from regional level present a unique opportunity for us to come together and to share our experiences and to learn from each other's success and challenges. At the local level, the review process serves as a valuable mechanism for fostering dialogue and partnership between community stakeholders, civil society organizations, and local governments. Unfortunately, in Armenia, information about VNR processes and overall SDGs are not that widespread. And I think that as I see within my partner organizations, especially working in the field of human rights and women's rights, we have more knowledge and more skills to participate in UN mechanisms like CEDAW reviews, UPR, ICCPR, or these mechanisms, then using SDG platform and VNR processes. And I think as a suggestion, it will be very important to raise awareness about these processes also within the civil society. And this side event can be considered one of the actions that can raise this awareness. But I also think that the governments have a lot to do with it, because the councils that are already established for this platform are not working effectively. And we see the problem also within the coordination. And coordination is cooperation, and cooperation are the most important parts of this process, which need to be addressed. Looking forward to the future of Agenda 2030 review processes, I think that we should firstly prioritize inclusivity and ensure that all the voices should be heard throughout the review process. And this means actively engage marginalized communities, women, youth, other vulnerable groups to ensure their perspective and prioritize what they think is important for the process. Secondly, I think that we should make our attention also on data collection and monitoring mechanisms, because sometimes we talk about some topics, but we don't have enough information, we don't have enough data which is collected, and this is very important for also assessing where we are regarding different SDGs, and these data and monitoring mechanisms need to be improved. Also, we need to strengthen accountability mechanisms to ensure that commitments made in this regional, national, or local levels are upheld, because this is also something that we notice. Sometimes these commitments are met and with happiness, and they are talking about in the declarative manner about the importance of all the SDGs. But when it comes to accountability, when it comes to the real processes, so we have these problems in all the levels. And finally, I think that collaboration with government, civil societies, private sectors, and key stakeholders should be the most important part to get to the goals that we are working for.
Thank you very much for very interesting and valuable points. Exactly, we should discuss more about partnership, about intersectionality, about interlinkage between SDGs, and I like that you highlight specifically the partnership between different actors, due to the fact that very often, and we see during the regional forum on sustainable development in Geneva, all governments reported good achievements, good work, and only some governments mentioned partnership with civil society, with different organizations. But it's crucial. SDG 17 is focused on partnership, and we should ensure these issues. And civil society should have more strong position and voice on these issues. But also, I think it's very important exactly our experience at regional level, and we can apply this experience at local, national level, but also at global level too. Thank you. And now I would like to ask Shehnaz to connect our sister Almudena. She's also from New York. Please.
Hello everybody. Hello everyone. My name is Almudena Rodriguez, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you sharing this space. First of all, I would like to start my intervention calling on states to do everything they can to end the genocide of the Palestinian people. As a feminist who works in the defense of the sexual and reproductive rights, we know that in order to guarantee these fundamental rights, we have to work from intersectionality. It is not possible any other way. And this means a lot of things for the defenders of sexual and reproductive rights. It is not possible to assess sexual and reproductive justice if you are living in poverty conditions or in a situation of hunger or living under a climate crisis which is affecting all dimensions of your life, of our lives. We currently find ourselves in the midst of multiple escalating crises in which day after day, the different structures of oppression are increasingly committing violent abuses of the majority of the world's people, communities, territories, and natural resources. Colonialism, imperialism, white supremacy, racism, heteropatriarchy, and the economical model mean that too many of us must face enormous challenges to live lives that are worth living. Lives free from oppression or violence. Lives within communities and within collectives. We are witness a rise of the extreme right around the world. In the economic sphere, we are seeing austerity measures which ignore the existence of planetary limits. In the social sphere, right-wing extremists are imposing their agendas on us with impunity. They have violent agendas which will destroy the common good. They assail us with hate speech and policies against the sexual and reproductive rights of women and LGBTQ+ population, as well as eco-fascist discourse and necropolitical migration policies that stem from the racist concept of eco-bordering. Their slogans about the great replacement are claiming to control
from New York,
women's
where the UN
bodies
Commission
and
on
the
the
bodies
Status of
of
Women is taking place during
LGBTQ+
these
Hello everybody.
Apologies for the
Hello
technical issue
everyone.
that just
My
occurred.
name is
Let me
Almudena
fix
Rodriguez,
that,
and I'm
and
very happy to be here
whenever
with all of
I'll
you
come to Almudena's
sharing
speech
this
where we were.
space. First of all, I would like to start.
Shiknaz, thank you very much. Yeah, there are some technical
Hello
issues.
everybody.
One
Hello
moment, we
everyone.
can finish.
Yeah, we have some technical issues, but it is not problem for all of us. Many times we have different challenges. Thank you very much to our sister Almudena in New York for very powerful message, and she's strong advocate on sexual reproductive rights, and now she has a very important role at Commission of Status of Women in New York. My colleagues are in New York in order to advocate women's human rights. But our responsibility is to ensure connection between different actors and thinking how we can involve more civil society organizations and voluntary national review. Due to the fact that unfortunately now civil society have a limited access to consultation process at national, local, regional, and global level. In this context, I would like to open the floor for questions, reflection, recommendation. How we
Valentina,
can?
sorry,
Yes.
if it would be okay, I have managed to come to the right place in Almudena's speech. If you want, we can finish that and then go to the questions and answers. Is that okay? Apologies everyone for the technical issue.
Yeah. Thank you, Shiknaz. Yeah. No.
The racialized people. Feminism and the defense of sexual justice is the axis and backbone of the transformation. The feminist political concept of reproduction, of life and social reproduction is the subversive concept that confronts and puts a stop to the neoliberal economical model that is causing the climate crisis, the poverty, the hunger, are also obviously the conflicts. The feminist struggle of women in all their diversity and the LGBTQ plus population fighting for body sovereignty are confronted every day with racism, white supremacy, poverty, economical injustice, and the climate crisis. As a defenders of global justice and human rights, we need to be transformative and intersectional. We have to defend the interconnection of every single SDGs because we know that neither objective is attainable without the other. From the feminism, from l'Associació de Drets Sexuals and Reproductius, we are calling on social movements in favor of global justice, economical justice, human rights, and climate justice to integrate the fight for sexual and reproductive justice into the political agendas. Without the sexual justice, it's not possible the fight or to achieve the economical justice, the climate justice, or the global justice. So it's important for us to understand that in every single SDGs are included the sexual and reproductive rights. And interconnected, all of them is a way to achieve a better world and a democratic societies. Thank you so much for your attention. And thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Shehnaz, for your support, and thanks again to Almudena for powerful message. And now I would like to open the floor for discussion, for your questions and maybe recommendation. But it's very important to explore how we can contribute to engendering implementation agenda 2030 and how we can involve more other groups, marginalized groups, and the voluntary national reviews. Who is the first? We have near our colleagues, Hannah. Hannah, you have the floor.
Hannah, we're not able to hear you, although I see you are not muted.
Apologies, I do have some issues with my headphones. So what I was saying was it was really nice to follow you and see the issues you are having. Sorry, it's not nice to hear the issues, but it's nice to build this solidarity among us because it means we can learn from each other and learn how we can kind of walk around these issues that we're facing on the national level. In terms of, I'm currently now in Geneva for the Regional Forum for Sustainable Development. And I believe your question was about how we bring in marginalized groups. So one of the first steps before the high-level political forum is to come to this regional meeting. And it's quite useful to come and meet your decision makers from your country. But what we do see when we're here is that it's usually definitely underrepresented from people from Central Asia, Eastern Europe, the Caucasus. And in terms of that, I think since civil society is such a pivotal part of Agenda 2030, there needs to be more recognition from member states, and they need to bring more of civil society, and we need more support to make sure that this is a space that really reflects the wide region we're in. And then in terms of what we've heard from colleagues here, is I think there's some countries that are doing a lot better in bringing in civil society, which we've heard throughout the year. Some countries are using the civil society to write the voluntary national reviews, and some people have 1 page of their own analysis and then 1 page of civil society. So these regional forums are really helpful in that way to learn who is doing what and what can be replicated. But then what we've heard from those who've attended this meeting is, I think generally the same trends that you're saying. Well, there wasn't much of a process, or the process that was there was maybe focusing on NGOs, or maybe not fully NGOs, but government associated NGOs. But it's really nice to hear that what they've done then, they've set up their own networks and they've taken their own initiatives, and then following through that. So yeah, there are several processes. So the national is super important in terms of doing the shadow reporting and the VNRs, but also engaging in the regional forum does help us to kind of analyze these structural issues we're having. So I think it's kind of clearly indicated here that there's a closing space for civil society, and we see that when we hear from people who's talking about VNRs here. But then also at the global level, there, as you probably know, then there is a global process for asking your member states during the high-level political forum. You can join up in teams, and I can put you a link on how to engage. So you will have the chance to write and co-write a question to your government. But yeah, I don't know how much to go into depth, and I don't hear anything, so I will stop there. But thank you for this.
Thank you, Hannah, for your intervention. And I know you have a large experience on managing and mobilizing civil society and the VNR process. And now I would like to mention that we received many questions from our participants, from our members of Women's Measure Group, and they asked us to put in discussion several questions. How can the voluntary national review effectively integrate gender perspective into sustainable development efforts across all SDGs? What best practices have emerged from countries' VNRs in terms of promoting gender-transformative sustainable development? And in the face of multiple crises, how can VNRs contribute to fostering inclusive partnership for achieving the SDG, which is strong gender focus? We have many questions. I think our speakers provided some information, but also we watching the intervention from Georgia partners due to the fact that I know Georgia also is VNR country, and they have a very interesting experience on inter-country network. And if we have some people from Georgia, I would like to invite you to share your experience and your idea in this field. I see we have some people from Georgia. Mariam, if you can contribute, and other people, what is your experience at country level and connection with regional level on VNR process?
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Mariam, yes, we can hear you, but it's very silent. Maybe if you could speak a little louder, it will be easier.
Yeah, I also have some issues with my headphones, sorry. I also struggled yesterday, but I'll try my best.
It's much better now. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I unfortunately don't represent the network that's been working through countries, through South Caucasus countries, but I've been involved in the country level preparation for previous VNR in 2020 that Georgia presented, and I can share a bit more about that. Yeah, in Georgia there is a mechanism that is the Intergovernmental Council that also involves civil society organizations, and actually anyone can join. They don't need to submit a request that they want to join the process, and then the members which are government, like different representatives from different ministries, and civil society will approve the membership, so organizations can join, and then they can join the process. The issue is that it's been working more or less in 2020, and like organizations were providing their input. But the issue this year, I think, will be that last year we had this protest due to law on foreign agents. I'm sure you're aware because it's been spreading in the region. Because now Kyrgyzstan government got it. So, and to resist that and to kind of show protest on that, several organizations decided to leave any council where government was also a party. So this year there is an issue that not all the organizations that were involved previously want to continue and like work with the government, because it was a really tense situation last year, and we've been protesting several months to take the law off. So yeah, that's the issue in Georgia. But the mechanism itself, I think it was a really well designed. Like how well it works in practice, it really depends on the partners who are in the mechanism, government, and then the NGOs. But the mechanism was really nice, and some of the meetings were really fruitful, and we could have some discussions and come up to common conclusions, let's say. And thank you for organizing the side event about this. It's really important to have gender transformative approach to the SDG, like implementation of SDGs.
Thank you, Mariam. But also we have a Sofiko. Sofiko, if you can intervene and present your valuable experience, how you manage this?
Dear Valentina, thank you very much for giving me space to also share my experience. I'm so sorry. Now I'm outside and it's too loud, and sorry about that. But I will share a very small comment very briefly about the 2024 VNR process, if it's okay for you. As Mariam shared the experience of 2020 VNR process, and now I will update you about the ongoing process during this year, 2024. So as Mariam mentioned, yes, in Georgia we have institutional setup for coordinating the VNR process, and it also gather representatives from civil society organizations, but still there is a huge challenge that the information about the ongoing processes are quite not transparent and not open, and if civil society organizations will not start the active communication to ask the information to the government, they are not open to share information by themselves. So it's a challenge. Second is that in these thematic working groups that SDG Council has, there is a limited number of organizations, right? It's up to 30 organizations, but outside of this group, there are a lot of organizations in Georgia that can contribute their expertise and their knowledge about this vulnerable, about the needs and interests and challenges of the vulnerable groups. But we are not sure that the government will provide countrywide public consultations to also hear the voices of rural women, rural youth. So it's also a challenge. This is the situation very shortly. As we have information, the drafting process is already started to develop the first draft version of the report, but as I mentioned, we did not see as a civil society organizations yet what kind of document they have. But as they are saying, they will share for April Then we will have opportunity to comment and reflect our recommendations. But when we are talking about the engagement, vulnerable groups, maybe you will agree that vulnerable groups first need, as a prerequisite, they need capacity building to claim for their rights and claim for request engagement. But so the government is not ensuring this preparation and the pre-processes to increase the capacity of vulnerable groups to engage. So if vulnerable groups don't have information and then don't have a skill and knowledge how to advocate for their rights, it's quite hard for them to be engaged. So I see the role of civil society organizations to first also support the capacity building of vulnerable groups and then proactively communicate with the government and this SDG Council to initiate public consultations for the VNR. Once again, I'm so sorry for such noise, and this was very shortly from my side. Thank you so much for giving me the space.
Thank you so much, Sofiko. You mentioned many very important points, but specifically, I would like to highlight that the government have obligation. The government should create all conditions for all marginalized group to be involved in the process. It's the government's responsibility. But of course, civil society, we should push government. We have this mandate to push government, to monitor government regarding implementation of engagement. And also, we are the voice of our population. We can mobilize and offer maybe more instrument exactly by knowledge and access to internet, because now in many countries they use and we can provide online consultations, but to create the conditions. It's our responsibility to involve our colleagues and people from marginalized groups in these processes and offer more space to our colleagues from civil society to express their voice. Thank you very much again. And I would like to ask our colleagues who would like to intervene, present their valuable experience. The current year, Spain, Austria, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, they are VNR countries. They have the experience. But also we have Kyrgyzstan, we have Moldova near another country who has experience too on VNR process. If you have some comments, reflection, proposals, for me it's very challenging the question regarding follow-up process. Many governors presented very good reports. They highlighted achievements, but after LGPF presentation, they forgot. And they are waiting the next step. During this period, civil society have a huge responsibility to push our governance. Do not forget about responsibility under SDG implementation. If you have some reflection comments, welcome. I see near it's my colleague Adriana.
Can I, Valentina?
Asel, please, Asel. And then
Hello?
Adriana from Moldova. Yeah, Asel,
Yeah.
please introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Asel. I am from Kyrgyzstan, and my country will do our VNR report next year. But now we started the process of creating working groups and as interministerial some bodies, coordination commissions for preparing. And it's also for us difficulties to be involving into this process because of shrinking of space, and we have some changes in our legislation according some discriminatory laws against civil society in Kyrgyzstan as discriminatory laws in Russia. It's just paste and copy like these laws in my country for our parliament, but we still are in the process of doing some partnership processes with our government. And it's important to have mechanisms and CSOs must know about these mechanisms and about these platforms. For example, we have a gender council in our country. We have council on sustainable development, and we do some advocacy to promote our representatives to these important bodies. And also now we have an initiative supported from the side of UNDP to cost SDGs. For example, in my country, we have no special budget for SDG 5, for example. And that's why Kyrgyzstan, according to the researchers, is the most dangerous country in the Central Asia for women. And now we started the process of costing of this SDG, but also we have promoting SDG 17 because SDG 17 was not in priority in my country still, but we have an accelerating of SDG agenda, and it's important to have interministerial partnership. And we have a national adaptation plan on climate change, and we input gender aspects to this document. And we have different points and different opportunities to work with our government through gender projects, through climate change projects. And also we have a big opportunity also in my country. It's public councils on the level of every ministry, and my colleagues from CSOs, they are part of these councils. And I want to say that we have also challenged as a capacity of our CSOs. We don't know about the VNR process and how to collect data, how to separate this data. And we have National Statistic Committee, but official data is not as realistic, we think, because in grassroots level, in villages, we don't see the real progress. And it's important to build the capacity of our grassroots and organizations, especially who work with the diversity, who work with farmers, who work with women with disabilities and other vulnerable groups, to hear their voices. And we have also regional and sub-regional mechanisms. For example, in Kazakhstan, in Almaty, we have a big consultative meetings on different SDG, and it's possible for us, but not all time, because the most important participants here is our governmental officials. And this year, we were able to promote our colleagues from women support centers to CSW 68, and we collect all our statements and gave them to speak out on this platform. And it's also an evidence that we must be in good cooperation on the country level. And also my last point that this year COP29 will be held in Azerbaijan, as I know. And we also can talk about SDG 13, especially about our national adaptation plans and how we can use this data and include all this our national politics and other to our report on SDG from our countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Asel, for valuable points, for brilliant, because you mentioned some points that we should thinking in the future, what strategy we do need to apply, and exactly what is the connection which financial resources to capacity building, financial resources, and our involvement at all levels, and specifically our solidarity. I thank you very much, Adriana Zaslavets, Republic of Moldova Platform for Gender Equality.
Thank you, Valentina. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening for everyone. As Mrs. Valentina mentioned, I am Andreea Zaslavets, representing Gender Equality Platform from Republic of Moldova, but as well the Rehabilitation Center for Torture Victims of Memoria. As my previous speakers were highlighted, that the VNR process is very important, and the civil society organization is very important in this process. I want to highlight that the Republic of Moldova at the moment is also in the process of preparation of VNR report. In 2020, Republic of Moldova also submitted the report and was submitted with the support of civil society organization. Why? Because civil society organizations are pushing on government to implement all the SDGs, especially SDG 5 as gender equality platform that is promoting in all levels promotion of gender equality and women. As well, Republic of Moldova at the moment is facing multiple crises that raised some issues that we are facing as society. For example, poverty or access to justice or access to education for girls and women. I hope that in this process we will have more information, and we will not have we will have opportunity to speak about all the problems from the grassroots, because Gender Equality Platform is a platform of 55 organizations and activists that ensuring intersectionality and has access to qualitative, if we can say like this, data. And not only the data that are not disaggregated, because we as civil society have the situation and have the knowledge how to collect this data and disaggregate from different perspectives. As well as someone mentioned, how to say, unfortunately, not all the government institutions have financial support to implement all the SDGs, and in this way, civil society organization can come with a support, financial support through different projects. Unfortunately, sometimes during the reports, some governmental institutions are, how to say, taking all the opinion and all the results that were done by civil society and are presenting as they have realize these activities. We will involve in all the drafting process, and we will be as watchdogs to the implementation of all the SDGs, especially SDG 5, SDG 16, and SDG 17. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Adriana. And unfortunately, we need to finish our side event, but not before that. I'd like to highlight some points. If it's possible, Shehnaz, concluding points. Yeah, the previous slide. Yeah. Thank you very much. And yeah, we noted that VNRs are the process for assessing the country their progress on SDG implementation. And it's important to have input from civil society, especially marginalized groups. Some countries make obstacles to this. Those civil society need more space at local and national levels and sustainable funding for their activity. Next, please. And we demand investment in fully disaggregated data by sex, age, disability, ethnicity, social status, and other factors to measure all SDGs and partnership with civil society. We need to include civil society in this process at all stages: preparation, consultation, participation at high-level political forum, and follow-up action. Also, it's very important to have international support and solidarity between all our organizations. And based on solidarity, we can help our colleagues to be more visible and to have more space at local, national, regional, and global level. And also, of course, you can use different instruments: shadow reports, parallel reports, statements, and Women's Major Group is ready to support your effort and is ready to assist you. And if you have, if you need more assistance, and if you need more space for discussion and for capacity building, we are ready to assist you and provide this. But also, Women's Major Group have an opportunity to offer the space on our website to place your shadow reports, your statements, and support you your efforts in elaboration of these documents. In this context, I would like to finalize our discussion. We have 2 minutes if our speakers like to intervene and provide final idea or to address some questions and greetings. No, yeah. I would like to express my gratitude to all our colleagues, specifically to our secretariat, Shehnaz. Thank you very much. She is connected from New York, and our colleagues from Spain, from Estonia, our colleagues from Georgia, from Armenia, from Azerbaijan. It's very important our common effort. It's very important our cooperation. We are a force. And sustainable development, it's about us. It's about our life. And we are responsible to push our government, but also to contribute directly to SDGs implementation. Gender equality is a pillar, is a fundamental pillar of all SDG. And we have this responsibility to ensure gender transformative approach. Thank you very much. And I would like to wish you good day, nice and successful participation in all our events. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Take care.